Roll up, ardent fashionistas and casual window shoppers alike, for another star-spangled, drop-dead gorgeous edition of the Guardian Film Show. As ever, we've come dressed to the nines as we prepare to study this week's releases with an air of frowning concentration that we refer to as critical eye. Leading the parade on this week's show, Ryan Reynolds plays a wisecracking, incorrigible anti-superhero in Deadpool.
Oh, I'm touching myself tonight.
Okay, Rachel, please help me find out what happened to you. I need your help.
Will Smith speaks his brains as a doctor in the football drama Concussion.
If I continue to speak, things could get very difficult.
No one would blame you if you stopped.
And Tilda Swinton is lost for words in the frantic, sun-dappled A Bigger Splash.
I hate that sound. Hello?
I found you.
In the meantime, eagle-eyed viewers may notice a new addition to the show in the form of this incredible table/artwork that was in fact specially designed for us by Ben Clement, an artist based in Belgium. Ben explains that the table is actually made out of ex-archive cinema film that has since been industrially hard-pressed. I think it might be a metaphor for our souls, although obviously it's a lot more beautiful and more practical too. Right, on with the show. Our first film is Zoolander 2, and here is Benjamin Lee speaking to the film's stars Will Ferrell, Owen Wilson, Kristen Wiig, and of course, Ben Stiller.
You still got it, D-Zone. You're Derek Zoolander. You stopped a Chinese throwing star in midair with a look. I was there. That's not me anymore.
Talk about the film's fan base that's grown over the years. When you're making this kind of film, is it on your mind thinking you must kind of serve the fans well, you don't disappoint them? Does that add extra pressure to the film when you're making it?
Yes, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's all I was thinking about when we were making the movie was, trying to make... I couldn't think of how to make the movie for people who weren't fans of the first one.
It has been nice how over the years it's developed sort of a cult following, but also how it does seem like these characters are sort of made for social media and sort of the rise in vanity as a culture that we've all sort of undergone. That who better to lead that narcissistic charge than these guys?
Ben is great in that
he's
way.
Good about that.
He really wants you, but he wants you to
want
kind
you to
of
really go for it.
As far as you can go.
Prison changed me! I am bad to the core now!
A lot of comedy directors are afraid of that for some reason. But yeah, he, especially with me, because Mugatu comes off as psychotic in this one, and but I think it's really funny because of that.
Talk! Where's my damn latte?
I just wanted to try to be true to the tone of the first movie, but also try to take some chances and do some things that we hadn't done, because I felt the first movie, that was the spirit of the first movie.
Derek Zoolander.
Yes.
Valentina Valencia, Interpol, Global Fashion Division.
Fashion police, we're clean, lady. Go harass somebody else.
Besides, I'm out of fashion.
I need to talk to you. It has to do with the death of Justin Bieber.
His death is not my problem.
I can use the database at Interpol to help you find your son.
You guys have quite a memorable kissing moment in the film. Was there a lot of prep involved? Did one of you kind of put a bit too much tongue in?
We sent each other videos of just
Famous kisses.
and animals being with each other.
And
then
use that
screaming
as
fights.
Right. And we kind of mix that all up together, and that's what you see up on screen.
Ultimately, the reason we're making the movie is for the fans of the first one, and so I hope that they like it.
Joined by the visions of loveliness that are Peter Bradshaw and Catherine Shoard. Peter, I must admit, I did laugh on occasion, but I fear not nearly enough.
I laughed. I felt exactly as I felt when Ron Burgundy came back for Anchorman 2. A feeling of slight disappointment, slight regret that he'd done it at all, but also a sense that I did still think it was funny and that there was still a kind of momentum there, albeit a sort of headless chicken momentum that's kept driving onwards by sheer fan goodwill and catchphrase capital. It's kept it going. And I've got to admit, I did laugh. I did think it was funny. When Owen and Ben come on and do their ridiculous routines, I have to admit, I did think it was funny. So I kind of, I
like the old Aquavita ad.
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, I thought it was funny. I thought there were lots of silly little gags in it. It was, I mean, they are taking the piss a little bit, really, with Zoolander 2. But I have to say, I'm enough of a fan, enough of a sentimentalist to think that it's still
I
quite
thought they were
funny.
taking the piss out of the audience, but not crucially out of fashion.
No. The problem is, whenever you get real-life fashion people doing real-life cameos, something's wrong. Something is wrong. It's like Ab Fab did this, and Valentino came on, I think I remember, and he played himself, and they're being elaborate good sports. And when Anna Wintour comes on, you think, that's it. She comes on, and she is a black hole of comedy. She is the kryptonite of comedy. And so I was worried about that, or slightly more worried by non-fashionista cameos like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Christiane Amanpour. Especially cameos come on where you have to announce them by their names. You have to say, Neil deGrasse Tyson? Oh, dear me. And you're right.
Susan Boyle?
Yeah, exactly. Susan Boyle. I mean, Susan Boyle, since when has Susan Boyle been a current cameo joke? I don't know.
Not since The Christmas Candle.
No, exactly. So, I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot stacked against this. But I have to say, moment by moment, there were laughs in it. There are ideas in it. There were laughs. And I hate to be a party pooper about Zoolander 2 because I do think there is some funny stuff still left in it.
Meet the biggest supermodel in the whole world is all.
Are you like a male model or a female model?
All is all.
I think he's asking, do you have a hot dog or a bun?
I have to kind of exonerate it from the charge of transphobia, interestingly. That was, cast your mind back, that was going to be a huge, huge controversy with this film.
Yes.
Arguably, this film doesn't exactly take that subject any more seriously than anything else. No. But to be fair to it, the point is that Derek can't stop himself being a bit transphobic in All's presence, and that is part of why he's humiliated. So,
and it's part of why he's out of date.
Part of why he's out of date. So, to be fair to Zoolander 2, that was sort of the point. And when all these people getting up petitions, online petitions, without knowing the rest of the movie.
I almost wish there was a petition not to have made it. It doesn't know really what it's doing, does it?
I think it's a bit late. I mean, 14, 15 years after the first one. Anchorman was, 10 years? It just feels a little bit like they've run out of other ideas. I rewatched the original over the weekend and it is so funny. And I do feel a bit like when people say Woody Allen's latest film is a return to form, and it's not. I'm wary of doing that because, the Zoolander one was so funny, and this is just so much a kind of pale imitation and sad and has no momentum compared to it and has no teeth because the first one was really saying funny things, pushing it a lot further. I mean, the bulimia jokes in the first one are very funny. Here you just have a fat kid and them going, ooh, that's gross. And, they really were taking the mick out of the fashion industry, and here they are really, really not. So I think that is a problem, and I rate it slightly less than Peter, I'm afraid. And I do like Zoolander, I do like them, and I do wish I liked this more. I just wish it hit the target a bit more times.
Look, I know you have a lot of unresolved feelings, but I'm still your father.
You're not my father. You weren't there.
That wasn't my choice. I was there when you were little.
Most kids play catch with their father. They don't go with them to a thong shoot.
There's a lot of starving children in Africa who would die to go to a thong shoot.
What?
That's Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson running clean off the runway in Zoolander 2. And we stick in Italy for our next film, A Bigger Splash, written and directed by Luca Guadagnino and striking a pose at poolside, except that this time the results are a little more heartening. This is Marianne, a rock diva superstar gone to ground after an operation on her vocal cords. Marianne can't speak, she's protecting her voice, but that's okay because her visiting producer and one-time lover Harry is talking up a blue streak. He's shooting out sparks, he's dancing a jig, he needs a dip in the pool to cool himself down. Catherine, what a wonderfully antic and eccentric little film this was.
Yeah, I sort of think all films should be more like this film. It's a British film, and yet it's not a British film. It hasn't got any of the kind of hang-ups and distressing sort of slowness and boringness of a British film. This is frank and full frontal and beautiful and erotic and funny and thrilling and good and clever and great. I just think this is a great film. Really unexpected. Released at a very strange time of the year in a way, because it's not eligible for Oscars. No. It is eligible for BAFTAs, and one sort of fears for it being left behind because it's so good. One really wants everyone to see it. And it to be rightly celebrated. The standout is obviously Ralph Fiennes.
He's so good in it.
He's so good in it. It's amazing. I know. Well, when he was doing Spectre,
well, you spoke to him, didn't you?
Yeah, no, that's right. But the reason was, of course, this film. It's like, oh no, they're interesting about James Bond, and he was very good in that. But this is absolutely the continuation of Monsieur Gustave and that sort of new, freewheeling, loose comedy thing that he's doing now, which is absolutely brilliant. He's just so amazing, and he's so horrible. It's such a ghastly person.
Well, he's this old producer who worked with the Rolling Stones and keeps banging on about the glory days working with the Stones and getting Charlie to play on a dustbin, and then there's this amazing centrepiece where he dances to Emotional Rescue. And I was thinking when I was watching it that the genius of that dance is that I think for people under 30 it's purely pathetic and totally laughable, and for people over 30 there's a kind of awful poignancy to it too, of kind of lost youth.
It's terrible. And the other really interesting thing about this movie is that very few films show you what rich people are like. Richness is sort of assumed, but here, interesting, these people are very, very rich. They are in their own private little playground. They're used to being rich. They're entitled and fantastically conceited and up themselves. And this is one of the few films that actually talks about that. Very few people actually show you what being rich feels like.
Getting the best table,
getting the
and
best
having
table
people fawning around
asserting themselves, pulling rank all the time, never able to let it go, always having a good time and showing everybody else that everybody else's good time has now become subordinate to their good time. And it's all centred on Ralph Fiennes, who totally steals that. I think you were saying, Xan, there's always somebody, some year, who gives a great performance which for some reason just doesn't seem to have any traction with awards, and this year it has to be Ralph Fiennes. He's absolutely fantastic in this film. He's absolutely brilliant. I mean, they're all very good. Matthias Schoenaerts, back on form, really back on form. Such an intelligent performance as Marianne's lover now, who with sort of restraint and good manners can't give Harry the punch in the face that he so richly deserves, and yet you really feel for him because he knows he can't do that. And Dakota Johnson, really good. I mean, really erotic in the way that she never was in 50 Shades of Grey. She kind of turns up and she's got this fantastic secret which emerges gradually towards the end of the film, and there's a really interesting, almost kind of Chabrol thing going on. That's terrifically good. The opening scenes, which take you from her previous existence as a rock star to the silent world of their villa and the pool, are kind of brilliant. They're so excitingly juxtaposed. It's kind of great.
Marianne, Paul's headaches, are they a problem?
Oh, Harry, stop this fucking shit, all right? You can't talk. I'm not going to repeat it.
Of course you could talk. When Bjork had her operation, after 2 weeks, she was...
I don't give a fuck what Bjork said, all right? Or Adele. No, and nothing's a problem here. Nothing a few Eurofan can't take care of.
That's Ralph Fiennes and Tilda Swinton leading us on a merry dance in the glorious A Bigger Splash. But enough with all those peacocks and posers, those actors doing funny voices and pulling funny faces. Time for something rather more serious. Here's Will Smith playing a Nigerian doctor in Concussion.
Want to solve the problem.
Who are you?
Dr. Omalu.
Will Smith is Dr. Bennett Omalu, a forensic pathologist who finds himself perplexed by the mental deterioration of a number of NFL stars. Just what is it about this violent, high-impact, head-butting game that could have caused this curious phenomena? Dr. Bennett thinks he may have solved the mystery.
Cardiac arrest may be how he died, but not why.
Peter, Advance Word had this as a major Oscar contender, and very sadly, it doesn't seem to have come to pass.
It's not sad as far as I'm concerned. Concussion is what this film is going to give you, basically. It is solemn and pompous in the way Hollywood movies about football always tend to be, and Will Smith is just unbearable. He's simply unbearable. Smug, saintly, shallow and conceited. He comes on and it's I don't know whether it's too good to be true or not. Maybe the real character was like that. That he does the voice in such a smirking way. It's just unbearable. The idea is, okay, he has got this evidence that these guys smashing their heads together, helmets or no helmets, that's giving them brain damage. And I, as a sort of Brit non-FL believer in the audience, I'm thinking, no shit, Sherlock, and who cares? Who cares anyway? I'm not signed up to this religion, okay? Something, I admit, a slight sort of little Englander comes out to me and said, I don't care. Why is it you're telling me all this? Who needs it? Something that seems to be so obvious, and it doesn't follow through. You're entitled to ask it at the end of this movie, okay, all right, I'll buy it. It's important. It's terribly, terribly important. You're telling me about these NFL millionaires who are contracting brain damage. Terribly important. As many as 28% of them are getting brain damage. All right, what reforms has it led to?
Yeah, well, that's the key thing, isn't
What key reforms has it led to? Tougher helmets, revised rules on contact on the field of play. What exactly? And frankly, the answers at the end of this movie are unsatisfying, to say the very least. And you're left with the supposedly interesting and inspirational story of Dr. O'Mara himself, the sonorous, saintly-voiced hero played insufferably by Will Smith. I mean, it's just unbearable. Made me break out in hives. I mean, it really is just unbearable. It's appalling.
If this film is to work, it needs a proper righteous rage as its engine, doesn't it? And it doesn't. It keeps doing this kind of equivocating.
But the game is still beautiful.
But
the game is exactly. And the key thing, the first thing I thought of as somebody who really, I know nothing about it at all, and in a way I felt sympathy with the character because he comes in and says, look, I don't have a problem with football, but I'm an outsider. Okay, I'm not as invested as the rest of you. And that is interesting, an outsider. But the movie can't bear to really even mention that. He has to keep going on and on about how he loves his adopted country, how he loves America, over and over again. Whereas common sense would telling you that the only reason he had this victory was because he really wasn't an American. He was a Nigerian he wasn't as embedded in this whole thing. But the movie, as you say, can't bear to do that. It can't bear to emphasize the fact that he's not American, and it can't even bear really to make football the bad guy. It was every time the bet has to be laid off, they have to get the Alec Baldwin character to say, it's like Shakespeare. You don't understand. It's like Shakespeare. So I don't know what a parochial movie this is. Actually, I don't think if you're a Brit and you feel impatient, I don't think you're the parochial one. I think this movie is a very Hollywood. It's like The Blind Side, John Lee Hancock's The Blind Side. It's another parochial movie.
Frank Capra with brain damage.
Yes, exactly. It's Frank Capra with something that you're not interested in. It's a US only. I really do think it is. I really think it is. It hasn't reached out beyond its borders.
Like my daddy, a Louisiana judge, always used to say to me, son, God is number one, and football is number two.
Look, the league has kept everyone in the dark. And you turned on the lights and gave their biggest boogeyman a name.
What's happening now, what you think they're doing to you, that's nothing.
Will Smith playing the outsider hero in Concussion. And what better to end the show than a Marvel superhero romp? By God, it's been a while. This one's called Deadpool, and it's tinkering with the formula.
You gotta do a superhero landing. Wait for it. Superhero landing! Yeah, that's really hard on your knees.
Right, so here comes Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, the Joker in the Marvel deck, the bad apple of the X-Men orchard. He's just been cured of cancer, but oh, at what a cost. And he's out on assignment, trading punchlines with the regulation-designated British villain.
Oh no, finish your tweet. That's fine. Just give us a second. There you go, hashtag it.
Catherine, as somebody who isn't known for being a big fan of the Marvel movies, I wonder if this does enough different to win you over.
No, it doesn't, I'm afraid. And I like Ryan Reynolds, and I like the idea of this. And it did make me laugh, and I don't think it's bad. It's just not for me. I just found it sort of a bit insufferable in the way that Peter was brought out in hives by Will Smith. I was a bit brought out in hives, not by Ryan Reynolds himself, and not necessarily by the character, because I get that he's meant to be a bit of a dick and a bit annoying. but by the sort of slight slackness of the gags. If you're going to be sort of funny and undercutting, you have to be funnier than this. You have to, just all the lines feel so long. There's that one that's in the trailer as well about, you're going to leave me here with less angry Rosie O'Donnell. It's too long. It needs an edit. All these gags need an edit. And this guy wore the brown pants. There's just, it's just a bit lame.
And very pleased with itself.
Do you think? Yeah, a little bit. And so it just felt very fun. I mean, in the same way that I'm a bit cynical, I'm afraid, about this great fan movement that meant Deadpool, the film, had to be made. Perhaps Marvel, in fact, might have had something to do with it. The whole thing feels very, if it really did undercut, I'd be up with that. And it's not bad, if you like Marvel, you're into it. Yeah, you get something out of it.
I love how you keep calling it Marvel.
Yeah, it's not, is it? I know. Oh, is it not?
I don't know, but I guess not. I've been calling it Marvel since I was a little kid. I'm not
prefer
changing
Marvel.
now.
I'm not changing it.
You're classing it up. Peter, this worked for you, though.
I did. I don't agree that the jokes are slack. They're deliberately sort of logorrheic. They're supposed to be like that. They're supposed to be delivered one breath, 130% of a regular line. They're supposed to be like that. I get it that you don't think it's funny, but I don't think they haven't been edited properly.
But you're saying it's Catherine's fault that she
I know. I'm not saying it's anybody's fault. I disagree with the idea of it being slackly edited. I think that you might not like anything about it, including the way that it's edited. Of course, that's fine. But I think it's supposed to be like that. Everything is the idea is that he says slightly too much, and the idea that he's overloading it each time with a pop culture reference, which is obviously and absurdly too specific and too vehement, really, to count as the way regular Earthlings speak, and that's sort of the joke. And I get it. You don't think it's funny, and plenty of people don't think this is funny. I think a lot of people like it less than me, but I really like it. I really like that kind of bravura, head-banging absurdity that just keeps going on and on and on and on.
Catherine, do you like any of the kind of more offbeat superhero movies, anything like Kick-Ass or The Incredibles?
I didn't mind Kick-Ass. Yeah, I don't mind Marvel movies. Sorry. Captain America: Winter Soldier, I thought was a good film. I don't necessarily want it always undercut. I just want it good, and I want it to be exciting when it's meant to be exciting, and funny when it's meant to be funny, and for it to just be a good film. I don't really have anything explicitly against superhero movies. There's a few too many, which doesn't seem very controversial. Idea at the moment. I just think that, I get what you're saying, Peter. I just think that actually the audience isn't laughing, is just laughing in a straightforward way. They're not thinking he's overloading this cultural reference and that's why it's funny. They're laughing with it. So when he says, I'm going to take you to see Professor Xavier, or whatever the hell his name is, and he says, McAvoy or Stewart, I get confused. They're laughing. It's like, oh no, I've seen those films and there's two actors that play that. Oh my God. And so, they're not actually... they're not laughing at Deadpool, they're laughing with him. That's fine, but it's just a bit lame. It's just like, I can see if I was a 12-year-old boy who was getting into Marvel, then I would like it. I'm not. I'm very, very much older.
It's too late for you now.
It's too late for me now.
Go get her, Tiger. Oh, I so pity the dude who pressures her into prom sex.
That's Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool. Just time for one last order of business, which is to announce that the film show in its current form will cease to exist after this year's Oscars. We've had tremendous fun making them, and that, it has to be said, is largely down to all of you who've watched and commented down the years. If it's been good, it's been because of you, so thank you. Right, enough maudlin sentiment. Onwards and upwards to hopefully bigger and better things, although I'm not quite sure where that leaves Ben Clement's excellent table. By rights, we should donate it to the Smithsonian. For the time being, though, it's business as usual. We're back with the table, same time next week.